Maybe you feel like you've been doing the work and you still feel wired, or you're still having symptoms, or you're just not feeling any better. And I feel like every one of us goes through this and it can feel really confusing. I want to talk about 3 things that you need to be avoiding if you actually want to regulate your nervous system. Because if you are doing some of the right things while also doing these things, they're going to kind of cancel each other out. I don't want that to happen for you. I want you to have the straightest shot here, because this process is so like going up a spiral staircase that it's not a straight shot there. And sometimes you go down to another level and then you start heading up again. And so these are the 3 things that you need to avoid if you want to regulate your nervous system. Number 1, you need to stop treating regulation as a project to complete. This has the assumption that there's an ending, or that maybe the goal isn't something that the actual goal is, like being calm all the time. When the goal is regulation, your nervous system is going to feel that pressure, because we're constantly monitoring it and applying this effort and pressure and timelines that are signaling to our system something is wrong here. Everyone that I'm going to mention today comes from a place of this signals threat. So if you want to regulate, that's why you have to stop doing these things, because as long as you're still actively doing things that signal that threat, you're just keeping the alarm system blaring. This is why my opinion on like step-by-step protocols are like, I'm not a fan of them. I think that with step-by-step protocols, we feel like there's an outcome that we want. In this case, the project we're focusing on is nervous system regulation. And someone has an 8-step protocol, or like, I swear on my life, I joined multiple brain retraining programs and I got into them and I'm like, this shit is 30 modules long. Like, you want me to do what every day? How long does that? Every time I have I couldn't believe it. It was so overwhelming to me. But not only that, I could probably do a whole episode on this, so this is a little bit of a tangent, but I just feel like it gives people a sense of certainty, because they're like, oh, I have this 14-step process and I have to say this and I have to interrupt this and I have to move like this and I have to adjust this. And it makes us feel like we're really doing something. It makes us feel like if I follow these steps in this order, I will get better. And if that's the type of teaching and system that you want, I can tell you, I'll look you dead in the eyes right now, I am not the girl for you, because I healed through principles. I didn't heal through a process or a protocol. And I think that it just adds to this idea that we are just trying to do the steps to get the thing. And it really, it's not the right energy to come from. And it keeps you really focused on doing the right things the right way instead of changing how you live. I think everybody wants to know what to do, but I think the most important things is looking at who do I need to be? How do I need to be? How do I need to respond? Versus like, what do I need to say to myself and how do I interrupt this properly? And what do I have to do with my hands? And where do I take a step forward? You guys know, I guess you only know if you tried brain retraining programs, but this is really about how you relate to your body, how you relate to your sensations, and how you relate to your life. That is the way that I healed like literally 20 years of chronic anxiety and insomnia. I had to change how I was being. And that's never going to come in like a 6-step process. It's not. You're never going to hear me, break these down into like doing all these steps. And it's not my jam. I had to learn in certain scenarios, what am I signaling right now? Am I signaling threat? What am I telling my system when I take this action? That was way more transformative for me. So it wasn't ever a project. It was a way of being. That was what made the difference for me. So it's not about getting it right. And as long as you see it as a task to complete instead of a way to engage and a way to adjust and flow with your life, knowing that there's going to be triggers in life. You're going to have things that set you off. You're going to experience things that stress you out. You're going to have the capacity to recover and be resilient. And that's why I think nervous system regulation and desensitizing your nervous system can be the biggest gift you give yourself if you do it in a certain way. I'm not going to say the right way because everyone thinks they have the right way. I know that the way that I figured everything out was the perfect way for me. So anyways, number 2, stop monitoring yourself all day long. You have to stop doing this. If you want to regulate your nervous system, you have to avoid the constant monitoring. Constant self-checking keeps your attention locked on the threat part of your system. It is engaging with that part of the system that is keeping all of these alarms on. And so even neutral monitoring can reinforce a hypervigilant brain. I know this is hard, and please don't judge yourself because you're going to be like, it's so automatic. It just happens. I don't even realize I'm doing it. I totally get that because that was absolutely me. But it's your job to notice when you're doing it and re-engage with your life. There is a difference between listening to your body and checking in with your body because we don't want to just tune our body out. I get the comment a lot on my social media of people confusing, and this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to go there anyway, confusing like allowing your symptoms to be there or listening or checking your body with ignoring. So I'm supposed to ignore my symptoms. And I've never said that. I've never said to ignore your symptoms. It's not about completely ignoring your body. You need to check in with yourself and know the difference between this hypervigilant monitoring and noticing when your body is asking for something or when something is coming up for your body. We're not trying to disconnect from our body. We're trying to stop feeding it the fear fuel, the fuel of fear. Because when it comes to listening or checking, listening is something that creates safety. Checking is something that keeps you on guard. So it is important to know the difference, but what's most important is that you don't spend all day long engaging in behaviors that are checking. Like, I think something that I was laughing about the other day was I used to check my pulse and I know where I like my pulse to be, right? And if it was a little bit faster than that, I would be like, I'm not sleeping tonight. I'm not sleeping tonight. And I just knew that. That was just something that I was 100% sure about. I was wrong about that. My heart rate can go slightly above what I like it to be and I sleep just fine. But like the blood pressure, the heart rate, the information on activity trackers, like none of that stuff is going to be helpful if you are in a highly hypervigilant state. So stop monitoring yourself all day long. I know sometimes it will happen automatically. When it does, it is your job to re-engage with your life and ask yourself, right, what was I supposed to be doing right now? What could I be doing? Where could I engage my attention? And the way I want you to remember this is engage your attention in the symptoms, reinforce the symptoms. Engage your attention in literally anything else, and you are pulling that energy and that focus and that wiring away from the symptoms and onto something else, which is going to break the circuitry there. It's going to weaken it. It's going to use it less. That's what we want. That is brain retraining. You don't need to stop. This is just you don't have to do that unless you love it. If you do, more power to you. Number 3, this one triggers people for some reason. Stop waiting to live your life until you feel regulated. Every time I say this, people get really mad at me. So we're going to go on another little tangent here. When you're learning all of this stuff, mind-body stuff about symptoms, you're going to have your diagnoses. You're going to have your experience with life. There's nuance here. Nobody has all of the answers for you, unfortunately. I've watched bazillions of recovery stories and I never have once heard someone, that doesn't mean you guys don't exist. I've never heard one person say, I learned from one teacher, I did one program, I did exactly what they said, step by step. That is the only thing I did that helped me and I recovered and I'm fine. It's always, I learned from this and that and I read this book and I combined this with this and that with that. Which is exactly what I'm doing here. I'm telling you, I took this from here and this from here and this from here and this is where I ended up and this is what freed me. And that's what everybody is doing. But it's your job to understand the nuance of what applies to you. And I fear with the stop waiting to live aspect that there are a couple things going on. One is the literal lack of capacity, like the literal, I am unable to do this. The other one is I am terrified of how I will feel while I'm doing this. Those are two different things. For me, in my recovery, which is what I share here, what worked for me. I'm not looking to be like the guru of this, okay? What worked for me was realizing that the fear that I had, that I was going to feel how bad I was feeling while doing stuff was the worst part of it for me. And I didn't realize that the avoidance that I was participating in was teaching my brain and my nervous system that normal life was dangerous. I didn't realize that I was inadvertently reinforcing that. I pulled away from everything. I shrunk down from my business. I shrunk down from my relationships. I wasn't going much of anywhere. I was on my phone all the time. I was avoiding everything, and I didn't realize that I thought I was just making my life safer. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, that's really stressful. I don't want to be there feeling this burning pain all over my body. I'll just stay here. I'll feel the burning pain all over my body at home. It's realizing that I hear people, what if I feel like I'm going to be dizzy? Yeah, you have to go while feeling like you're going to faint. So much of it is, I don't want to go and feel so terrible. I don't want to do something fun while I feel awful. I don't want to go on a trip while this is still here. And that has us avoiding until we feel better, not knowing that if we would stop the avoiding and start taking action prior to feeling better, that sends a different signal to the brain. And a lot of the time, symptoms get better. I've had many times where I've gone on vacations and my symptoms have all but gone away. I've had times where that hasn't happened. I've had times where I've gone on vacations and I felt terrible, but I was still on a vacation, may as well be on a trip rather than being at my house. So, if you wait to live your life until you feel better, it's going to reinforce the belief that you can't handle what's currently happening. That's not a signal we want to send to our brain. And if you deal with anxiety, if you deal with these avoidance things, if you deal with avoiding your life because of symptoms, you are reinforcing to your brain, this symptom is dangerous. That's what you're doing. And it was hard for me to get this information from so many different angles, where it was like, you have no choice but to take it with you. Let it be there until it's not there anymore. Go feeling horrible. Celebrate feeling horrible. Travel feeling horrible. Go to the Airbnb feeling horrible. Celebrate your birthday feeling horrible. That was the key for me. Do it while you feel horrible. Don't wait until you feel regulated, because when you learn to live alongside these sensations, that builds trust, and it builds a relationship with your nervous system where it's like, okay, well, these alarms that we've had on, they aren't having the same effect. They're not preventing anything. So they start dialing down over time. Okay. It's one of the most important things. I find it fascinating how triggering it is for people. And I understand that everyone's situation is different. I'm going to say for the majority, like 98% of people, it still applies. Very, very rare cases where it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you're an adult. You get to decide, and you get to decide if you're going to count yourself out and be like, oh, that won't work for me. I can't live my life. You know where your baseline is. You know where you're at. You know what going a little further than that is. And that's been the most transformative part of my recovery, and from so many recovery stories that I've heard, that we reinforce these beliefs of what we're capable of when we say, oh, that won't work for me. I can't do that. I'm different. I couldn't possibly push or do anything more than I'm doing right now. Like I said, in a couple percentage of the cases, okay. For majority of people, it's unapplicable. Okay. Most people, when it comes to getting better, they don't need more tools. They need to lower the pressure and increase the trust. And when you stop doing these things, you give your system a chance to regulate. So the work isn't in adding more strategies. And I stand by that so hard, because, I like to combine a lot of things together with the place that I come from when I'm talking to you guys. And this is coming from a deep understanding of human psychology, a career where I worked, one-on-one with women for 6 years on behavior change and life transformation, and then all the experience that I've had. It's so fascinating to me how the questions, the concerns, the issues, the roadblocks, they all look the same, but sound a little different no matter what area of life you're looking at. And it's fascinating to me how interested people are in someone telling them exactly what to do and being so allergic to the nuance. Because I get it. We're addicted to certainty. And so we want someone to tell us, do exactly this for exactly this amount of time, and you will recover in this amount of time, because it lets us go, okay, I have some answers. And part of this process is getting very uncomfortable not having answers, getting very comfortable being uncomfortable, getting very comfortable living with uncertainty, and just riding the waves and letting it take you where it's going to take you, while you focus on things like not treating nervous system regulation like a project that you can get an A+ on, and like not monitoring your symptoms and your body and what it's doing all damn day, and not holding off on getting back into life. Life is passing, and you're waiting until this is done to feel better, not realizing that we kind of have to work with the way the brain works. And the way the brain works is it's constantly looking for information to make sense of what's happening. And when we have these scary experiences, we innocently pull back from life. And what we do is we confirm the brain's false alarm that there's a really big, active, structural, real problem here versus we're sensitized. We're overinterpreting these threats right now. So it's our job to work with the way the brain works, whether you like it or not. That's been a big part for me. I don't like it. I don't like the way that it works. I don't like what I had to do to get to where I am. I don't like what it entailed. I don't like what it asked of me. And it transformed my whole entire life. And it's the reason I'm sitting in front of you today and the reason why I'm able to offer anything on this topic as someone who struggled so bad for so many years. Yes, with chronic pain over the last 2 years, but prior to that, mental health issues since I was 15. It was constant, and probably even prior to that. So we have to work with the brain. We have to work with the way that our nervous systems work, and we have to stop doing these things if we actually want our nervous system to regulate. If this was helpful for you, I would love to hear from you in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.